Hello, long time no make video me. English, I'm so good at it. So I have a lot of videos that are like roiling around in my head that I want to film, and I can't figure out the order I want to do them in. I've tried filming my January reading wrap up probably 10 times at this point, but every time I hate it or there's something weird about it, so I'm just gonna film something else first and see if I like this. This is going to be my Providence, Rhode Island vlog video. I don't know how to do this. I had no idea really how to do this because I'm very bad about just kind of like sitting there and like, hi, it's me, you know. I wanted to get better about that because I think that'd be more interesting sometimes, or like just a nice fun variation to kind of fill in times that aren't reading wrap-ups, TBRs, specific book reviews, etc. And so I'm experimenting with this style. What I think I'm gonna do is talk about the places, the bookstores that I went to, and intersperse that with videos from either like actual bookstores that are relevant to what I just said, or to places that we went, because we did go to some really cool spots. We have a publication manual of the American Psychological Association. We have Gary Zukov, Soul Stories, and then the do's and don'ts of hypoglycemia. So,
written by who?
By Roberta Ruggiero. And I think she's just a lady. We think she's just a lady who had hypoglycemia,
and not an
like
actual. Yeah. MD. Okay. Anything you wanna grab?
You know, I think I'm good for now. I think I'm good for now, but definitely something to keep in mind. Those are like the books that even Goodwill wouldn't take. Okay, so the first two books I want to show, I think are kind of like, not the least interesting, but they're cookbooks. So one of the bookstores my friend took me to was 20 Stories, and they're very small bookstores, so it's not looking at plate. I don't know. I think there's some places that have more of like that Barnes & Noble's Borders energy, where you can kind of always walk in and you're like 60% sure you're gonna find the book that you want. Like Barnes & Noble's, it's like probably closer to like 75, 80. Then there's the bookstores where it's like, it's not Barnes & Noble's, but you're probably likely to be like, you know, 60%. This is one of those places like you are 40% likely to find, you're probably like 30% likely to find the book that you're looking for. You're more likely to find something you weren't looking for, which is kind of what I did. I got a cookbook, Après all day, 65 cozy recipes to share with family and friends by Kelly Epstein. And it's really cool. It's like a ski / cookbook, and yeah, it's like après ski, so like the things you'd have after you ski. And like I was saying with the bookstore, right, it has not a lot of books, but it does have these 20 stories that are kind of chosen out to be like highlighted for like whatever period of time. It might be a week or a month. And they did have some really cool looking books, and I think they had them separated from like English and translated to English, which I really like as someone who does read a lot of translated fiction. That personally was cool to me. I thought it did have like YA. It was a nice layout. It was very cozy, very small, and it was a cute little walk to get there from where we had been originally, kind of by the waterfront, like up into there. Oh. I wonder how deep it is.
You want to find out? Jump.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, what did I get? I got some bookmarks and a Providence postcard. It's very hard to see. I think it's the person laying in bed. It is. And then the little 20 stories cards, just to kind of show you. It has really beautiful artwork, and you know, like this chai bundt cake. Are you kidding me? I'm already hungry. I definitely want to make some stuff, especially some of the soups, because I feel like soups are really easy. I definitely want to make some of those. The next one, I cannot for the life of me remember what the name of the store was. Maybe I do have like a little, oh, there we go. An Unlikely Story. This was in Massachusetts. And it is the guy who wrote the Diary of a Wimpy Kid. This is his bookstore, and I got another cookbook. This is Tava, Eastern European Baking and Desserts from Romania and Beyond. Irina Georgescu. This I got because I have gotten more into baking than I've ever been in my life, and I am Eastern European, so I wanted something that would, you know, kind of be more relevant, maybe recipes that like my grandma would be more familiar with. And some of these just look so freaking good and delicious, and I can't wait. Like, I literally can't wait to make some of these recipes. So those were the cookbooks that I bought and the respective places I bought them from. Now let me get into the more kind of books that I purchased from the bookstores. The first one is Symposium, and I don't 100% know like the geography of Providence. I'm sure my friend will be disappointed to hear that from me, but I think this is kind of closer to the downtown area, and it was on a very like a very shopsy street. This is like a great place. I suggest going, getting like dinner, an early dinner, and then walking around all these shops, because there's cute like clothing stores there too. Of course, I and my friend and I went to the bookstores, and here I purchased 3 books. One of them I've already finished and then gave to my friend who finished it also. I'm going to talk about that one in our January reading wrap up, because we both have like different opinions about it. But the first one is The Hole. I can't remember the name of the author. I'll put it up somewhere. So The Hole, then The Hole is a very short book, and it's about a woman who, her husband is relocated kind of near where his family is. So this kind of young couple, like mid-30s couple, decide to move into that town and move in right next to their in-laws, because the in-laws have a house right there. And the wife has to give up on her job. She has to give up on her like all of her sort of life and move out there. And it sort of is about the hot and hazy time that she spends, where she has really no responsibilities and nothing to do. And I think that there's probably, like, if you could read this and know more about like the Japanese culture, like this is one of those places I think like if you read this and you knew more about this, you could have a really amazing reading experience. But I feel like it, like, you could read it and get a lot out of it, and you could read it and get like absolutely nothing out of it. Next up is We by Yevgeny Zamyatin, and he was a novelist, playwright, short story writer, an essayist. And this book, so it's kind of cool. So Zamyatin was growing up, his father was like a priest or something. I never know what they're called, the like religious leaders. He's a religious guy, head like job professional, TM, religious guy. His son quickly becomes disillusioned with, I think, Eastern Orthodox like religion. So he's like, no, that's stupid. Then he becomes really into like Bolshevism. He's like, oh yeah, go Bolsheviks. Then he's like, wait a minute, you guys are crazy too. So he kind of lives his life always against extremes, always against being too dogmatic. And I think this is a book which is his version of like this perfect one state ideology taken too far. And it very much is like the thing that inspired 1984, like very clearly, you know, they're similar. And I think George Orwell probably was heavily inspired. It's about this mathematician who realized, like, through a relationship with this woman, realizes that like maybe he has a soul, maybe he has dreams, maybe his feelings, and how like the events are unfolding. I am halfway through this currently, so I'll have to let you know in a February reading wrap up how it ends. That's spoilers. I'm not gonna do that. Okay, whatever. The last book is an essay collection by Hanif, Abdurraquib, and this is They Can't Kill Us Till They Kill Us. Really cool. Just, I don't know, I think I have to admit I bought this because of the cover, and then hearing more about how it's, you know, this poet and essayist from Columbus, Ohio. Yeah, I don't know, there's something about this just seems like it'll be really cool, and I feel like, based on not being able to read this, probably an interesting look at America through like a Black man's perspective. And even the title alone, They Can't Kill Us Till They Kill Us, like how not, I don't want to say relevant, but like how American does that feel? Yeah, so I'm very excited. Next up was Riffraff. Riffraff, yeah, these are the Riffraff books, was a really cool like bar slash bookstore in a sort of industrial little shopping park, and definitely the kind of place that you would meet, you know, really awesome, cool, queer creatives, you know, like that's where you'd meet all the cool people, would be at a place like Riffraff. And this is where you go to find like off the cuff but cool books. Like I was like, everything there, I was like, this is so freaking cool, like I want to read all of these books. I bought the most books from this particular bookstore. The place where I found stuff I never heard of. I would never have found this had I not been in this bookstore, is how I feel. Okay, so this is what I've been getting. We have 76 Ebola, Aseroë. This seems really cool. Yaga laid an egg, and apparently this is a big former Yugoslavian writer. And then Brickmakers, and this has like Romeo and Juliet, but queer, but working class vibes. So the first one is Amir Tag Elsir. I've also finished this one, and it is 76 Ebola. It's about a guy a factory worker who brings Ebola from Kinshasa into Anzara, and like back into Sudan. At this time it is Sudan, and kind of the unfolding of that, like not only its ramifications for different characters, but also has some commentary on like the socio-political situation there, and I really enjoyed it. Really good. Really, really like that book. I also love how the author personifies Ebola, which is quite different from, I read The Plague also in January, or I finished it in January, and like interesting to see the different ways of like narrating this event. From Dubravka Ugrešić, I do not know how to pronounce that name. Baba Yaga laid an egg, and I think this also in like, let me read the back of this. I just remember like being like, I want to read something by this author and picking this one up. Baba Yaga is an old hag who lives in a house built on chicken legs and eats children. She appears in many forms as Pupa, a tricksy, cantankerous old woman who keeps her legs tucked in a huge furry boot, as a trio of mischievous elderly women who embark on the trip of a lifetime to a hotel spa, and as a villainous flock of ravens, black hens, and magpies infected with the H5N1 virus. But what story does Baba Yaga have to tell us today? This is a quizzical tale about how one of the most pervasive and powerful creatures in all mythology, and an extraordinary yarn of identity, secret, storytelling, and love. I wonder what the most pervasive and powerful creature is. But Baba Yaga's like, that's not how I would describe her, but okay. But yeah, that just sounds cool to me. Also, I don't know. I've been reading a lot about viruses lately. I feel like that's obviously just publishing post corona. It's gonna be very virus heavy. Then we have Brickmakers by Selva Almada. I believe she is Argentinian. Yes. I'm also gonna read the back of it. I kind of remember what this is about, but I'm gonna read the back of this anyway. Oscar Tamay and Elvio Miranda, the patriarchs of two families of brickmakers, have for years nursed a mutual hatred, but their teenage sons, Pájaro and Angelito, somehow fell in love. Brickmakers begins as Pájaro and Angelito's older brother dying in the mud at the base of a Ferris wheel. Inhabiting a dream-like state between life and death, they recall the events that forced them to pay the price of their father's petty feud. Selva Almada's fierce and tender second novel is an unforgettable portrayal of characters who initially seem to stand in opposition but are ultimately revealed to be bound by their similarities. Yeah, so very much modern day, different situation, Romeo and Juliet. And again, was I initially inspired to pick it up because of the cover? Yes. Did I stay for the back of the book? Yes. Will I feel happy to have read this? I feel like yes. Definitely it has a good energy to this. Then we have Aseroë, I think, a novel by François, Dominique. And as far as I understand, this is kind of like this mushroom. It's like a what if novel. Like, what if there was this crazy mushroom discovered and it had all these weird effects on people? Like, what would that do to our world? Yeah, so also quite short. A lot of the books I got there were quite short. But so far they've been pretty good. Like, at least all the books that I've read from the bookstores I've been to, I've either been like I want to like continue to go to this bookstore to find more cool books, or like have been like, I love this, I'm so glad I got it, you know. Next up is The Narrow Cage and Other Modern Fairy Tales by Vasily Eroshenko. And this was so cool to me because this is a blind writer, translator, activist, and teacher who had an extraordinarily global life after, like, I know I'm supposed to be reading like about the actual stories, but I'm reading with the guy because I picked this up because of the guy. After studying in Moscow and London, Eroshenko traveled to Japan, where he found fame for his fairy tales and public speaking. Deported from Japan for his connections to political activists, he moved to China, and this is where he, like well-known writers like Lu Xun, which, like, oh my god, Lu Xun, I love Lu Xun, translated his stories to wide acclaim. The final decades of his life were spent in the Soviet Union under Stalin, where he died in obscurity. Isn't that always the case, right? Like, why? We gotta hate it. We gotta hate it. So, censored by Soviet Union, great writer. That's the connection we're getting here.
And I'll just keep walking down.
Wait, can I say a really cheesy joke though?
Sure.
Riffraff, more like rut-row, I bought too many books. Okay, and the last place we went to bookstore-wise was the Book Barn, and that was so cool. So it is actually a barn. There are goats and there are cats and there are buildings, kind of like a little city of books. And it is a secondhand bookshop, which I also really love. I would love to go back and bring some of my read books that you know, free up some space.
Clever thieves. Wow, we're just. Are you gonna walk around here? I don't know. Yeah.
This is the Redneck Reading Room, also known as the Outhouse.
I see goats. Buy it for, if I had known I could buy food for 12 cents, I would buy. Hello, I'm sorry. Do you want us to go get food for you? Should we go get something for 25 cents? Do you have a quarter?
And this, for example, I was talking right about like places where you can definitely find a book that you're looking for. This place, I do not find books that I was truly looking for. Like I had some books that I would have liked to have picked up, couldn't find them, which I do love. I love that kind of like random element to it. But I still, of course, was able to find things I wanted to read. And this place, I bought 3 books there, one of which is like a little bird watching book, Birds of the Water, Sea and Shore. And this actually, we went to a place and we're looking at this, looking about mallards and trying to understand ducks better. So this book we just got at Book Barn might prove to be useful on today's adventure. Yay. Looking at this, looking about mallards and trying to understand ducks better. But it's really cool. I do think the illustrations are quite beautiful, and I really want to get into bird watching, but I don't have, like, they're also like, all the books are so dense, and I'm like, I don't really want that. I just kind of want to know, like,
it's the most recommended by dentists.
I'm here. What birds are here? So I don't really like.
I'm sorry, I ain't got nothing to offer you. You're very cute though. Very pretty.
So I don't really like, I don't think I'm gonna read that book. But the other 2 I've already finished. So at the Book Barn, which is in Connecticut, I got Nip the Buds and Shoot the Kids by Kenzaburō, and I really loved this book. I have read A Personal Matter by him and I enjoyed that. I liked this too. I think both of them definitely have like great critiques on society, but this one is about these boys who during the war, like they're kind of they're like a, not a juvie, but like a boy, like a school for rough boys, and they're being evacuated and they're sent to live in this town with these villagers, and shortly after they arrive a plague breaks out and the villagers trap them inside, and it is in a way about how the boys deal with being trapped there, but in a greater way, it is about a world that traps these boys and how they are clearly seen as antagonists by everyone. But what we see is they're not the baddies. They are truly like a leaf in the wind, being carried everywhere and having like very little control. And then when they do have control, they are shown to have like maybe resourcefulness and kindness, but yeah, then it is ruined by these people who are like they're so stuck in their ways that they're unable to, be kind. And definitely I think like a great critique. It was he won the Nobel Prize for Literature, and I can see why, based on the 2 books that I've read, like just very good. I think I liked both books by Oye. This one I think is maybe a little bit more actiony, a little bit more like more stuff is happening, whereas the other book, it is about the main character has a son who is born disabled, and it is about like the days after his son is born, how he has to like reckon, how does he make a decision, what to do with his son, because the doctor is telling him you should just let the son die. And it is about him like thinking about the life that he's led, thinking about his son and like what to do, what's the right decision to make. Should he pursue his dreams? Should he run away? Should he abandon everything and do what he wants to do? Or should he like stay and be a father to a son who will kind of never fit what the expectations are of a son, like never fulfill that role? And I think it's also even more powerful because Oye's son is disabled. So I think maybe these were thoughts, and this was Oye's book about that in a way, like about his way of like dealing with all the feelings that he might have had. Both very good. Highly recommend. This next book, I was always amazed. Like I literally told like 6 people about this book, freaking like 6 random people about this book. Freaking loved it, so good. And it's like randomly picked it up off the shelf, and that is what I love about a book barn-esque place. I love about a secondhand bookshop. You just pick up that book and it changes your life. And this is A Wife for My Son by Ali Ghalem, a Tunisian writer, and it is about a girl. She's 18, that's a girl to me. She is married to an older man who was working abroad in France. He and his family kind of wanted him to marry her so that she would stay, and the book then deals with how she is living in this family, how their relationship with each other, her relationship with her in-laws, her relationship with her siblings-in-law, and it talks about the pressures of a tradition. It talks about the I talked about so much, and it's so well handled, and it's written by a man, but I have to say, like, there are books written by women today which do not have as deft of an understanding of women that I feel like this book has. Like, when the characters have sex, it is, and like it's described as sort of as like non-consensual. It is described as assault, and I was like, for a book written in the 70s, like that feels like you don't get that today all the time. So the way this book handles those conversations, the way it handles the emotions of the characters, that even though she is this wife, this 18-year-old wife, even though there are these expectations that like she's an adult now, right? Like she's thinking about like children and all that stuff. She's the character, she still feels like a child. Like she still feels like an 18-year-old who is like, well, I want a job, like I want to work, I want to do all these things, like I want to finish my schooling, like all of that. I don't know, the characters were very well written, and I loved that there were truly no villains in this. Like there were characters you didn't like, but you also got so much of their story and their understanding, and like their motivations were so clearly explained that it was like, even though you didn't like them, you didn't hate them, you didn't want for them to lose and someone else to succeed. And you saw too how an inability to communicate affected these characters and affected what potential happiness they could have if they could ever have that. Like if all of these characters were able to decide what they wanted, the situation wouldn't have happened. But if within that they wanted to have the most positive response, like to all of the actions, they would have to communicate with each other, and they're just capable of doing that. And it is so beautiful.
She put her mask on because she's so cold. Should have brought mine. It's freezing out here. Do you think this place is haunted?
I should have brought my pendulum. We could have asked. Probably not. Probably not. Maybe that place.
Like the ocean is haunted?
Yeah. Buy this book. You should definitely read it. So those were all the books that I read. Nope, I did not read all those books. Those were the books that I purchased, some of which I have already read, when I went on my little trip to Providence. Let me know if you've been to these bookstores, if you've read any of these books. I mentioned earlier that I'm currently reading this book. I hope to finish this soon. It is very heavy on like the world building, but you know, I'm getting through it. I'm chugging along. Yeah, really good. Thank you.
Little decorations. And then we see this, which I think is a piece of chicken and a sausage stuck to a tree. Okay. I only have one more thing left. We can get it.
Oh, sure, thank you.
I got an extra bag.
Oh, you dropped the radish.